Ryan Reynolds here from Mint Mobile. With the price of just about everything going up, we thought we'd bring our prices down. So to help us, we brought in a reverse auctioneer, which is apparently a thing.
Mint Mobile Unlimited Premium Wireless. How to get 30, 30, bit to get 30, bit to get 20, 20, 20, bit to get 20, 20, bit to get 15, 15, 15, 15, just $15 a month? Sold!
Give it a try at mintmobile.com/switch.
Upfront payment of $45 for 3-month plan, equivalent to $15 per month required. New customer offer for first 3 months only. Speed slow after 35 gigabytes if network's busy. Taxes and fees extra. See mintmobile.com.
AI is moving fast. So fast, it's hard to keep up. In fact, in ServiceNow's latest AI Maturity Index, scores dipped 20% from last year. But that's okay, because AI isn't a sprint. It's a marathon. You may be behind today, but tomorrow you could be a pace setter. Dive into ServiceNow's AI Maturity Index and see how you can innovate as fast as your ambitions. Visit servicenow.com/AI maturity.
Hello, my name is Damon Friedman, co-founder and president of SOF Missions. As a 20-year veteran within Special Operations, I've gone through many challenges due to my military service and time in combat. We felt called to start SOF Missions to serve our fellow brothers and sisters in arms, focusing on suicide prevention and resiliency. Our mission at SOF Missions is to empower warriors to find purpose and be resilient. Since 2011, when we started the organization, almost 3 million men and women have deployed to Iraq and Afghanistan. Unfortunately, the scars of war take a toll on their psychological, physical, social, and spiritual health. Many veterans feel a sense of hopelessness and a loss of purpose when they return to civilian life. They feel isolated and alone, unable to reconnect. And in the greatest of tragedies, over 20 veterans lose all hope and take their own lives. Our goal at SOF Missions is to provide veterans the tools and resources so that they don't become a statistic. We offer a unique approach to combating veteran suicide through a whole health intradisciplinary model. The Be Resilient program is a 4-pillar methodology that addresses the areas of psychological, physical, social, and spiritual wellness. We provide care through 3 delivery methods: medical clinics, retreats, and educational training. Since we started back in 2011, we have been able to reach veterans in all 50 states and have served over 3,000 veterans through the Be Resilient program. Being resilient is a multifaceted and complex issue. We know that to find a lasting solution, we have to address the whole warrior. Many challenges cannot be solved by providing the treatments and modalities of just one component, but by tackling them all. Now, we've expanded our services to include law enforcement and first responders. Together, we can make a lasting impact in the lives of warriors across the nation. To learn more, visit our website at sofmissions.org.
All right. Welcome back.
MisFitNation. MisFitNation. The MisFitNation show.
We are a show founded by a veteran and hosted by 2 veterans and a military spouse. Our mission is to get people to tell their stories to the world. If you're an author, share your tips with the Misfit Nation. If you're a musician or an actor, our audience needs to know how they too can get into the business. Coaches, we love our coaches. Come on and share your tips with the Misfit Nation to help them become better versions of themselves. If you are a corporate leader or an entrepreneur, come on and show how you did it and how hard you have fought for success. If you are a veteran, first responder, or Gold Star family, we would love to have you come on and share your story with the Misfit Nation. We always have time for you. If you're feeling down, alone, or starting to see the darkness, stop. Think about those who are around you. You are not alone. You will be missed. If you feel like your problems will be a burden to those in your inner circle or feel embarrassed, dial 988. If you are a veteran, take option 1. We need you to keep pushing forward. Don't make a permanent solution to a temporary problem. If you are a new listener, welcome to the Misfit Nation show. Be sure to subscribe to our show on your favorite podcast app. Also on our YouTube channel at @the_MisfitNation. Subscribe and click the bell to keep you up to date on our latest episodes and all of our news. You can also find us on Heroes Media Group and About Face Radio. Now, let's get to the show!
All right. Welcome back to the MisFitNation show. It's your Thursday after dinner show. We know you have other places you can be and other things you can choose to do, but you choose to hang out with us right here on the MisFitNation, and we appreciate you for that. Thanks for all you do for us. And just like Ramon just said in the intro, you are important. Stay in the light. A day tomorrow with you is better than a day without you. Just keep that riding there. Call us if you need us. We're here for you. Tonight, we remember Patrol Deputy Antonio Alamon from Dona Ana County Sheriff's Office in New Mexico, and to watch July 8th, 2025. Let's keep his friends, his family, his peers, and his community in your thoughts and prayers as they go through this sudden change in life, a sudden loss. They know they have a risk when they go to work, but they don't expect it to happen and don't want it to happen. So let's think about that as we go through the rest of our day and their days as they go through this dark time ahead. And keep a Texas in your prayers as well. Our brothers from Warriors in Motion are there. They drove from North Carolina the other night with a truckload of supplies to go help out as much as they could. Keep them in your thoughts and prayers as they're in there helping there and doing their best to help others over there. Tonight we have a great guest. He hails from Queens, New York. A Mets fan because of the Subway Series. I won't hold that against him, but we'll keep that up there. He's a graduate of West Point, the U.S. Military Academy in 2007, commissioning as an aviation officer. He excelled in Army's flight school, became an Apache pilot, the world's most advanced attack helicopter, known as the Closer. His leadership was quickly recognized. He was an executive officer during Operation Enduring Freedom in 2012. He's multiple deployments, and now he's the executive vice president of Civil Leadership Development at the Bill of Rights Institute. So without further ado, let's welcome Gerald Gangaram to the MisFitNation show. Welcome, Gerald.
Hey, Rich. So happy to be here, brother. Thanks for having me, man.
It's awesome to have you here. And knowing that we chewed some of the same dirt and we came from the same hood almost, just across the river, like we said, we little river thing called the Hudson River separated us there. But we're still from the Northeast and in a good part of the country at that time when we were growing up. So thanks for being here tonight.
Absolutely. You know, you don't hold the Mets thing against me. I don't hold the Jersey thing against you in the same way. You guys took Staten Island. You guys have Ellis Island now. We're straight.
We've been trying to take Staten Island for a long time. As well. Yeah. I don't think anyone wants it, though. So
I'm not going to go there, brother.
You got an important position. You can't go there right now.
There we go. We can save that for the backstage kind of talk.
Yeah, that's I guess not the green room, but I guess the ante room. We'll talk there. You go. Antechamber. I gave a couple sentences about you, Gerald. If you don't mind, tell the MisFitNation a little bit more about you. Dig a little deeper, why you went to the academy and how we got here.
Yeah, I appreciate that, Rich. So again, I didn't start off obviously as an Apache helicopter pilot, right? It was a great honor in my life, but now what I do is a lot of public speaking. When people ask why, I started off in a very different socioeconomic status than I have now. Like you said, I grew up in Queens, but also my zip code was one digit away from Rikers Island. It was a running joke where I grew up that if you did anything wrong, you were going to Rikers. I'm talking about if you didn't do good on a quiz, you're going to Rikers.
Wow.
You weren't fast enough in a game of tag, you're going to Rikers. It was just kind of the running joke with everything. And even when my biological father had left my mother, she told me that he told her that I wouldn't amount to anything because she didn't even have a high school degree. And that mentality of the requirements of education and that importance always stuck with me. And she really kind of pressed that on me. But even by the time that I was going to go to college, when I was in high school, and having to think about that stuff, I had a teacher come up to me and ask, where are you applying for college? And I just laughed in his face. And I told him, I can't even afford to apply to college, let alone go to college. It's like, what are you talking about? Where am I going to go to college? Right. And this really important mentor in my life, First Sergeant Gogarty, he knew I was considering enlisting in the Army as a thing. I didn't know I wanted to serve in some type of capacity, especially because September 11th had just happened. And he told me that there was one school he knew of that didn't have an application fee, and that was the United States Military Academy at West Point. It was the only school I applied to, and thankfully I got in. And that kind of changed the course of my life forever at that point. It put me on a different path that I didn't know existed. And it's why I'm extremely fortunate to really have had mentors in my life. I believe very much that like anyone that says they did it on their own, if they're telling the truth, they maybe did it a lot harder than it needed to be. Mentors for me are people that have not just, it isn't always about opening doors, but in some cases it's showing me another path that I didn't even know existed. And for that, I've always been extremely grateful and fortunate, because every step on my journey, as difficult as it was at any point, I had someone else show me another way of doing things that I didn't know existed. And it's been a tremendous blessing, even in those dark moments.
Definitely. You hit it nail on the head there with mentors. And you really, when we're growing up, we don't realize what we have when people are trying to give us advice, because we know everything when we're younger, and no one is as smart as us. And especially as we get into our teen years, no one can tell us any different. And thankfully, you had a person take you under their wing, First Sergeant, and say, "Hey, look, I got a place you can apply. Especially, it's free to apply." And that's the best line I've ever heard about someone applying there. And you got in and you fought through it, and I'm sure you had a blast there. You met a lot of great human beings that you're probably still good friends with now.
Yeah, there are a lot of ways that West Pointers can stay in contact with each other, and it's also one of those, it's almost like the biggest fraternity that there is, right? And it isn't just your classmates, but it's just along the way, the people that you meet. Everyone's always, you know how bad it is in the Army, where every time you meet someone else, I know all of your listeners are probably used to, hey, you served in the military? Oh, you know my cousin Doug, right? Like, well, it's that same way, obviously, at West Point, even more so. The only thing is that it's sometimes a smaller community with some of these things where it's like, oh yeah, actually I do. So that's where it can get a little weird.
Definitely. Me and Adam, the head of Heroes Media Group, that the MisFitNation falls under, we went and worked the Army Navy game this last year up in Baltimore, not Baltimore, in DC actually. And we had a blast, and just seeing the camaraderie amongst the alumni, like you said, both sides, both Navy and the Army, and it's sad day 'cause Navy won, but Army, we sat right behind the Army cadets, and it was so awesome to be there in the press box, watching it from that view, to see the camaraderie within the stands, and then the alumni joining in with them. And it's like the line never ends. The gray line never ends at that point.
You know, the Army Navy game is a great example of the relationship that the military has with not just the nation, but each other even, right? Like, you have both teams that are, at the end of the day, they may be battling on the field, but they'll shake hands and know that they will work together and die next to each other if they need to defend this great nation. And if only all of us can be that way, right? Where we know, it is completely okay for us to express differences we have in the moment with something, but then we still lock arms and we face whoever our true opponents are instead of each other, right? Like, it's that the whole Army Navy rivalry is that whole sibling rivalry, right? Like, we'll poke fun at each other all the time, nonstop, especially when it comes to a certain week in the year. But if anyone else mentions how, like, it starts picking on our little brother, then no, that's my role. Now we're going to gang up on you.
Yeah, only I can make fun of you. Exactly. He's my special little friend. Good. No offense, Navy and Marine fellas, but that's who we're talking about. Thanks.
Oh yeah, no, I mean they're cool with it. I'm sure. Like, I got a pack of crayons that I keep on me anytime that a Marine I know might get hungry. Never want to forget about them.
Any specific flavor, or is it the 36 flavor one?
I've heard Crayola is the best, but I can never attest to that. It's funny. I have so many great friends, and when I really mean that, I mean like people that. The first people that I would call in my life when something was going wrong or I needed advice, a sounding board, just someone to laugh about something with, they're Navy and they're Marines and stuff like that. And so for all the grief I give them, it is really out of love.
That's outstanding. And you mentioned education earlier as well. The statement your biological dad said to your mom, she was did not make it through high school, and that left that indelible mark in your brain to say, look, education is important. And now you give that back. Now, explain to MisFit Nation, how do you do that now?
Yeah, so I'm right now the vice president at the Bill of Rights Institute, and this is an organization that provides teachers, and really anyone that wants it, but specifically teachers, with resources to teach civics, American history, social studies, and at no cost. And I want to highlight that, because when I mean resources, I mean that we serve over 80,000 educators right now. We reach more than 8 million students. We have over 6,000 free civics and history resources that include stuff on our website. I mean, we have textbooks that, like, you can go on our website, you can put, these are the things that I want, and we'll print out textbooks and send them to you, or have them on PDF, whatever works for you. We have games, videos, but we all do this because we believe that students should have access to quality civic and history education. It shouldn't matter what your school's budget is. It shouldn't matter what zip code you're in, right? I always think about that for me. I think about, I was really lucky because I was in a school that had a JROTC program that taught me some of these different values, right? And I mean, these are things that have to do with our constitutional principles, like liberty, justice, equality. And I got that because of the school that I went to, and I was lucky enough to go to that school. I want every teacher to have access to that stuff, so that the next Gerald that's out there, the next Rich that's out there, someone that has service in their mind, can almost have that right conversation, that spark, and that mentor that really gets them to who they really should be in life all that sooner.
Definitely. And I know my wife, she was a history teacher, U.S. history teacher up until last year. And then this year went to world history. And she used the Bill of Rights Institute. And I think she got copies of the Constitution or something from them. Or something.
Oh, yeah. No, we got pocket constitutions. I was just checking to see if I had one of them on me. I probably have it in another room. I have a smaller version of one right here. But our pocket constitutions are loved by our teachers. It's actually the number one thing that our teachers request so much. We just started a page on our website with all the teachers asking for them right now, or not all of them, but a couple of them that are, to try and fill those. And it's interesting because when I've talked to our teachers, I'm like, why the pocket constitution? Why do you want a paper version of this, especially in today's world? And one teacher told me that they actually challenge their students, if they see them at the grocery store and stuff like that, they can come up to their teacher and be like, where's your Constitution? Because they want it to be such a bedrock part of their understanding. And having that physical thing, one valedictorian apparently lifted it up during their speech that they gave to show that, yeah, this was something they got earlier in the school year and they understood what it meant to them. But those physical reminders mean something, right? Symbols mean something. And especially when it comes to our Constitution, right, brother, we understand here, and a lot of your listeners, that oath of office that we all took, right? And that was to the Constitution. We don't pledge to any person or offices, to the Constitution, because for us that means something, right? We're not a perfect nation. Sure, no one's arguing that, but at the same time, our Constitution has these ideals that we can be. We can strive to be better. We can do things to amend it and to continue to improve ourselves and be something better than we were in the past. And those are ideals and principles that we should continue to protect and make sure that the next generation continues to understand those. It's almost a crime these days that not everywhere is civics a requirement to be taught. And it's something that, because of that, we wanted to make sure the vast majority of the Bill of Rights Institution is people that actually are teachers. So when we're making this curriculum, lessons plans, we take all that guesswork out. It's like, hey, these are the discussion questions you would want. These might even be the homework questions you might want. Like here's a whole lesson plan. We'll give you as much or as little as you want, because we know that need is there. If everyone's always on STEM and stuff, well, you know what? You don't get critical thinking if you don't look at the history that we have in the United States. If you don't look at all these things, and again, I can talk about this stuff all day.
And you're hitting a home run with this, because if you just look at modern times now, if you watch an interview of a person that's on the street right now and they ask them a simple question based on civics, their answers are just off the wall. And sometimes I think it's staged, but then I realize this is real. These are what these individuals believe. And it's just drives me bonkers knowing that when I was growing up, it was put into our heads what civics was, what your social responsibilities were, what the Constitution is, and history, and the, like you all also hit earlier, service, and having that purpose to serve. And that's not there right now. And I think we got to bridge that gap.
I mean, when you talk about service, right? And we definitely get, and I know your listeners all agree, it isn't just that military service, but what does service mean? What are your responsibilities as a citizen, right? It's
Right.
not just these are the rights you have as a citizen, but what those responsibilities are. We do this one thing that I really love. It's called our My Impact Challenge with our students. And it encourages students to develop community service projects. And I'll tell you, these are, again, constitutional principles, that liberty, justice, and equality. But our winner this year was a team from Texas, and they developed a program to teach tennis to children with disabilities.
Wow.
So they'd have equal access to sports and recreation, right? Again, something as basic as that, but it's local based. It's things that these students see a need and they go for it. And yeah, people are like, oh, well, that's nice. You know what? I saw another project that was students getting money to buy calculators so that other students can have calculators, because not everyone could afford them. So whenever it came time to take that calculus course, hey, you need that graphing calculator. The students made a program to loan each other calculators, right? That's what I'm talking about. That's stuff it isn't about, oh, now I'm a leader and how am I going to continue to climb over other people, right? It's a servant leader. It's how can I put myself down to raise others up on my back, on my shoulders, right? And it's so encouraging to see that for people that are always thinking, oh, I don't know what's going to happen to the next generation. This whole like good times are going to create weak people and stuff. I'm telling you, it's very encouraging to see that when people understand our history and they get exposed to this civic mentality and that responsibility as a citizen, people do, I believe, rise up to the occasion. No matter how young they are. And I feel the younger they are, the more empowered they feel because they still know they can make a difference. They haven't got everything put on burden with them of this is just the way it has to be. And that's a wonderful thing to see.
And definitely if they haven't been polluted with the burden side of it, they understand that it's a gift they have, they can give back, and you can't take it with you to the grave. And you have to be able to, any knowledge you have, give it back. And just keep learning that, like you just said, local is very important to me. And I put it in my book, 13-Step Guide to Success. If you build your local community to be the community you want it to be, it will spread. It will go out to the next community, into the city, the state, the county, the state, and possibly the country. But until you are at 1600 Pennsylvania Avenue, you can't worry about 1600 Pennsylvania Avenue. You have to worry about your address and the people on your right and left.
Could not have said that better myself, right? Like there's so much focus, and rightfully there'll be a lot of focus at the top, but so many things that happen there, while they'll eventually make their way downstream. How much ability do you have to work with just that friend group, just that church group, just
right
around your block? And that has immediate consequences, right? It's why your reputation can matter so much more in those local communities, because that's that whole village that we have to just make all of us better.
Right. And Sebastian Junger's book, Tribe, and understanding that we are all basically tribes. And if you understand your community is your tribe, then spread that. And that's how it's all work. And I think what you're doing with the Bill of Rights Institute and others are doing around the country with their organizations, if everyone would just stick to those guns and get the communities going, I think we'd be on a good glide path here.
Oh, 100%, right? And it reminds me actually of a story about how much more important it is to even acknowledge those members of your tribe, right? And tell them how much they mean to you. A friend of mine was just taking the bus a couple years ago, and she was telling me how, everyone lines up at the bus and they're all swiping their Metro card equivalent of things and wherever the state was to get on. And this one guy starts doing the dance where he's patting his chest and his pants pockets, trying to figure out where his Metro card is. And obviously he misplaced it that morning without even thinking. She just swiped hers for him and her, and they just kept the line moving and didn't think anything of it. She was just like, don't worry, I've had it happen to me. And that was it. But you can immediately think how much that probably just de-stressed his day from, oh man, this is the start of my day and all this stuff. like maybe a week later, she runs into him at the bus stop again. He comes right over to her, gives her a card that's like a Starbucks gift card that says, "Thank you for being my hero." Right? Wow. As small as that was, we can't imagine the ripple effects that we have on people in those small moments, right? And she saw one ripple in that. And who knows how many more throughout her life she's cast in whatever other way, just by someone seeing something you do, let alone experiencing something firsthand. And I also think something was really important about that, right? He called her a hero. If you think about the word hero, especially in our profession, no one that I know that is a hero, that I would say is a hero, ever calls themselves a hero. They only have that label because we give it to them. And they're always uncomfortable with it because we always think to ourselves, well, we know someone else that sacrifices more, that is worthy more. And it's this thing that we do. And rightfully so, right? But at the same time, that's why it's even more important to tell people when they do something heroic for you, because you don't need to be in the military to be that hero, right? You don't need to be in the front seat of an Apache. You can do that in a bus.
Right. On the train, on the sidewalk. I mean, if we just look up from our phones look those 3 inches up, there's a whole world up there. Look someone in the eye and say, hello, how are you? That might be the difference they need that day or that week to go from going into the darkness or staying in the light with us and make their day that much better. All we have to do is start talking to each other.
And if that's too much of a burden for you that day, try smiling to someone if you don't want to say that hello or something. There's something you can do. We can always be of service to someone else, even especially in our darkest hours.
Oh, definitely, 100%. And you just talked about being the front seat pilot of the Apache. I know there's audience members that love the Apache, and I would love you to just tell some awesome stories from this front seat of the Apache as well.
Oh gosh. Well, again, I say front seat because it's always in the back of my mind, but I am a dual seat aviator. Actually, I was in charge of flight school for a little while. And even during that time, even before I took over flight school, pretty much everyone now is qualified in boat seats, front and back. From boat seats, you can shoot, and from boat seats, you can fly. And that's a good and a bad thing, because you have to make sure that as much as you can get roped into the flight, you have to make sure that someone is flying this aircraft, because this is an amazing aircraft, most advanced helicopter we have in the world, right? This thing has a 30 millimeter cannon on the bottom of it, Hellfire missiles, rockets. You can reach out and touch something from over 8 kilometers out, right? And we can see even farther. These days, we even have drones that we can interface with. Amazing capabilities. I mean, you're not allowed to drive and talk on a phone. And in this aircraft, you're talking on and texting on 5 different radios and SATCOM and everything else. It's a task saturation nightmare. And there's nothing that I would rather be doing when I was doing it, right? I was always engaged in what I was doing. And it's interesting because I did thankfully have the ability to go downrange. Both of us were actually in similar places in Afghanistan and close to each other around the same times. But it's even my very first, as many kinetic times where there were rounds going downrange. Rich, the very first engagement I had that was a TIC, a troops in contact, I didn't fire a single round actually. And the way it worked was we got the call, we rushed over there. There was still snow on the ground because it was in January and stuff. And I'm all adrenaline and everything, and I'm calling the guys on the ground, and I'm realizing nothing's going on. I was like, hey, did we miss it? Like, is everything okay? And the guys call back, and they're like, no, as soon as you came on station, everything stopped. The gunfire stopped. Even the dogs stopped barking. Oh, and they're like, sir, can you please stay on station for just a few minutes? We haven't slept in a few days. And if you can just give us that peace for right now, because they're not going to do anything while you're in the air, we hope, like, we can just get some shut-eye. And, I learned at that point the importance of deterrence and presence so much. And that's exactly what we gave them. We didn't get called away for anything else. So we just burnt holes in the sky at that point for as much gas as we had until we had to leave to give them as much shut-eye as we could in a moment of peace in that one time, right? And it really was a valuable lesson. So, yes, we have the capability to completely go in and blow things up very quickly. We're very good at doing that, right? Our 30 millimeter has a 15-meter radius on it, and anytime I pull the trigger wherever I'm looking, at least 20, if not over 100 rounds of that thing go out the cannon. Yeah, unbelievable capability, but sometimes I just have to show up. And we decided to make our rotation about present so much more. We were trying to be in the air because we knew in most cases, bad guys stop doing bad things whenever they see that they call this a monster and dragon in Afghanistan. That's how they translated it with the Taliban. They didn't have Apache. So anytime they knew the dragon was up, they were like, all right, we need to stay down.
So we become the sheep herders again. Yes.
Yeah, everyone out there at different points turns into a shepherd. They go from having rifles to all of a sudden tucking those underneath their shirts and stuff and breaking out a staff and trying to blend in. But in some cases, we can see when that happened too. And there were certain things that we could do to try and remedy that and get the right people to make sure that those people were even caught.
I know having the Apache above us, I remember the first ones that came above us when I was in Ramadi, it was call sign was Widowmaker. And that's just an awesome call sign for an attack bird. And you just call, hey, Widowmaker 1-6, I'm at this grid. Can you eliminate this in front of me? Yep. Just move back. All right. Moving back. They'll be there. And that was just that, amen. We got this guy up here who's going to help us out, and we can go about our business. And just knowing you have that in your back pocket, and that monster in the sky is beautiful for us. It's a godsend to us. It's a monster to them.
Oh, absolutely. Right. It's a monster you want on your side. It's something that, again, the other person doesn't want to sleep, because that mantra that you have right there just says too much. And there's such a trust that we have between our ground and our air components, right? Whenever anyone asks me why, like, yeah, you're an Apache pilot and you had all these forces stuff, but why are you in the Army? Why aren't you in the Air Force, right? And I think it's a great question that people can ask that don't understand the military. And what I would remind them and kind of educate some people on this is that I was a ground commander, though, being Army, where the Air Force and Navy need to get their munitions cleared to the ground by some type of joint terminal air controller. We call them JTACs or something else of that nature, someone qualified to talk. In my case, Private Smith could grab that radio and say, help, and I could clear those munitions to the ground. I could even clear the Navy and Air Force guys that were higher up to do their things, and we could work in concert together because I was still that Army ground commander. And that's why I don't think the Army's ever going to get rid of its aviation component, because at the end of the day, the Air Force, technical and tactical experts, and what they do, we need them to do it. The Army, the main focus there is leadership, right? The main focus there is us being present. That presence again comes into mind, right? And I think it's really important that we never give that up.
Definitely. We got a question in the audience that might go right into that. It's from J. Rada, Georgia, GA. What's one moment in combat that shaped your view of leadership? Thanks, Geroda.
That's a great question, Geroda. I hope I'm pronouncing that right. And I'll say that at one point in combat, we had I remember I was flying with a chief warrant officer, Kevin White. He was a CW3. And at the time anyway, he got promoted later. But he was on a night mission. We ended up having to go to days he had to go to days that same day. So he had been up for 12 hours now. He's going to do another several hours with me. And because we were just our manning at the time, he's not complaining about it, though. I say, hey, don't worry, we're going to mitigate risk here by you flying with me and stuff. All right, we're good. And I say, we're going to do one recon. It's going to be a quick go out, look at good guys doing good things, hopefully no bad guys doing bad things. We come back 1 hour tops, don't worry about it. And so we go do this mission, and it's exactly what I say, 1 hour tops. We're on the way back, and we get the call, though, troops in contact. And it's like, all right. We start heading over there, and the initial report that we're getting is that we have less than 20 friendlies going up against over 120 enemy combatants, Taliban, in this one small area. And this is not going to be a good thing. But again, we're awesome. We're really good at what we do at this point. I don't think it's going to take us that long to do this. We're still going to get back. Kevin's going to be able to get some shut-eye, and the other guys will play Call of Duty until we get the next tick, right? It's going to be quick. But Rich, I'll tell you that when we get there, we realize that there's this thick trees and canopy that's over there. And we're not able to break out where the friendlies are, where the enemy is, because we found the one oasis in Afghanistan. And while all of this is happening, I start getting lower and lower. And Kevin's working as much as he can in the front seat, trying to break things out, all these sensors that we have, these $1 million pieces of equipment that aren't doing anything through jungle canopy, it feels like. And as we get lower, the guy on the ground, Zombies, says, gunmetal, that was our call sign, gunmetal, watch out, they're shooting at you. I respond back, Roger, Zombies, when they're shooting at me, are they shooting at you? Kevin then responds to me, sir, I know what you're thinking, and I agree. So at that point, everything was in a fog of war. Like I said, we couldn't see anything. I even felt at one point the guys on the ground were maybe even shooting at each other because of just this chaos that was going on. So I realized that those guys on the ground, they saw that dragon up there. When I came low enough, they figured, hey, let's try and slay a dragon. So I was the perfect distraction. And I was going to let them try. So I asked the guys on the ground, hey, how much time do you need to regroup? And Zombie says 60 seconds, sir. So we get our act together. We make sure our wingman knows what's going on. And we come back over to that spot, bring the aircraft slower. And Zombie says, gunmetal, watch out, they're shooting at you. I remind him that was the point. I reach up. We have a button on the aircraft that hits a stopwatch. And I experienced the longest 60 seconds of my life, I felt at that point. Now, again, we weren't a sitting target. You would think I would have had a PlayStation Madden controller that I was using up there with all the juking and jiving around that we were doing, right? But not a single round hit the aircraft. It worked out. We actually did it twice because in the end, on the unclassified side, this would be over 10 and a half hours. Not that 1 hour engagement that I was telling Kevin that we were doing. And what that really taught me was everyone that would see that ends up asking, why do you do it? And is it because you want to be that tip of the spear and the bravado? No, Kevin was thinking about, he's a married man. He has Nicole, right? He had twin daughters that he barely knew at that point. They were born shortly before the deployment. And I know he's thinking about them because of conversations that we had and even in the aircraft before. And at the same time, he's also thinking about the guys on the ground and what they expected from us. I was able to briefly meet with some of them afterwards. And when they were expressing their thanks for how we handled the situation, they told us that as soon as they heard we were going to do that, they immediately were making plans that if something happened to us, they were going to go to the crash site, and that's where they were going to make sure to defend. It was about being a leader that had to forge forward through a time. And wow. Kevin was being that leader in that moment with me, even when he was thinking, that's exactly what we need to do. I get asked all the time, are leaders made or are leaders born? I believe they're forged. I believe that when you can go through some type of trial or tribulation, you can go into that furnace and you are allowed to melt. You could always do that. Or you can go into that furnace, you get heated up. And I'm talking, maybe you even have someone swinging an anvil on you, a hammer against an anvil, and you're maybe, and in the end, it might be a mentor because you might come out, go in steel, come out a sword. You might not even know what you need that blade for yet. Right. It might be something, though, that you need to have empathy for someone else. It might be years. You may never know what you need that for. But from my experience, I've learned at this point that a leader that forges forward is someone that has empathy and someone that will answer the call later on. And so for me, the biggest thing that I learned in that type of combat situation with the military and such is the importance of being a leader that can forge forward.
Wow. That's an awesome answer and great story. It made me think. I watched a documentary last week called The Longest Month about a Apache squadron at the first Cav in Iraq. And those dudes that they interviewed, it's like you were saying the same stuff they were saying, how they would talk to each other in the bird to get through situations. and talk through the whole situation and not just the higher level stuff where I know this is what we're supposed to do. Hey, what do you think we're supposed to do? And how do we get through this? And those guys did that same stuff you were just talking about. That was just like flashing into my head when you were talking about that. So I think it is forged, like you said. And people always say, are they made or born or made? It's a combination thereof. People, you have the instincts, but you need to be taught and mentored, and you need to see what right looks like and what wrong looks like, of course, too, to make the right become the sword you're supposed to be.
Exactly. It's one of those things when I was in charge of flight school, I made sure that every class I would try and get to them at least once a month. Our courses would be 6 months long, and I tried to make sure as a commander that I spoke to at least every class 6 times. And the reason for that is I wanted to share different stories of things that happened to me, those decision-making moments, because I wanted them to armchair quarterback the hell out of it. Not because I thought this is a situation you're going to have in the future, because there's no telling what that was going to be, but so that they could go through that decision-making process of things, see that it's not all black and white. There are, especially there's moral things that we have to think about. There's the whole aspect of balancing that mission and people requirement that we have as we have that mission to fight and win the nation's wars. We do it with America's sons and daughters. And at one point, you also have to think with all of these commands that you have and otherwise, I can't prepare you completely for what you are going to have because I don't know, and I wish that I did. But how do you come back home and still have your honor? How do you come back home and you're okay with the decision you made because you can look at yourself in the mirror? And I think that's one of the greatest things when I talk to people about veterans in general. It's that thick skin that we almost forget we have when we leave, where, we have all of this about like, yeah, give me those after action review comments. Tell me all the negatives and maybe the one sustained, right? But I only want to hear the negatives because we want to be better. And I think it's really important that we always remember that's the kind of cloth that we're made from. And that's the kind of thing that we want to do. And honestly, I believe it's because of that service-minded ethos that we have that we feel emboldened comes from everything that starts with that oath of office. It goes right back to the Constitution.
It's a full circle moment almost every time. And definitely you have to have that mentality to know where it starts and where it comes back to make sure that we're on the right glide path in life and the right glide path for the next generation. With what your efforts with the Bill of Rights Institute, you're helping the youth, and the youth is where it is now. And that's the leaders of tomorrow. That's where we have to make sure that they're on that right path. Our time to lead is already shined and shown for most of us. What we can do now is make it better for the next generations to make sure that they have that leadership mold in place to lead from the local level up to wherever they want to go to from there. If they want to go to the hierarchy up there and on 1600, let them go. But if they want to make sure their community or state is awesome, stay here and do it.
Absolutely. And, I couldn't agree more. And it's one of those things that for me, when I joined with the Bill of Rights Institute, I was someone that they wanted to have even try and bring more veterans into conversations with things, because we know the importance of getting them in front of our students that are in the classroom and arming those teachers. A different story, not because we're promoting the military, right? But it's because we're promoting service, and you can't get any more service minded than that. Our Honoring Service web series, where I talk to veterans about what service and defending Constitution means to them, those videos have already gotten thousands of views. And for me, that just shows more and more how people want to see this. People know that there's all these inauthentic leaders that we're surrounded with or that we're seeing on TV in different ways. That doesn't have to be what we accept. And service doesn't have to be in the military, because all these are also veterans that are still serving. They're still trying to figure out, how do I give back? How do I make my community, whatever community is defined as for them, that much better?
Oh, definitely. And I love the message, and I love the whole concept of the Bill of Rights Institute. And there's other organizations that are doing similar things without the Constitution base, but trying to get the mentorship into the schools. And I think if we all start staying towards that line, man, I'd love to see the finished product.
Oh, absolutely. We're doing a debate program here in a couple weeks in Philly that I'll be speaking at. And again, debate and leadership. And it's so interesting. One of the things that we want is we want people to argue in the classrooms. I want students to show what their different views are, because go figure, we should be able to say, this is my view of it, this is your view on it, and then go play basketball at the end of the day, right? Like, you can still hang out afterwards. You can have a difference of opinion and still be civil, right? It's such a novel idea, though, when people are like, oh, that's such a good idea. Well, go figure. That's how we've been living life for like years in this country. And we're almost forgetting that that's the premise of it. I don't judge you by what party you were in. I don't judge you by what single stance you have on one thing. I want to judge you on the character and the man and woman that you are, right? Those are things that do matter. Your character, your beliefs, your values. That's something that we can argue a little bit about on different things, but the red line shouldn't be, oh, well, you disagreed on whether this road should have a toll on it or something. It's like, right. Come on now, right? There are other things that we can do better as society, because we do bring that into the light of day. We even write parts of our curriculum that are point and counterpoint arguments, where we have one person that takes the stance on, as an example, does Congress work? Is Congress effective? One person says no, one person says yes. They write a whole thing about it, and we put it into the curriculum so that a teacher is armed with, hey, let your students debate them. Let them pick sides and let it be a fun activity, because debating can be a fun thing, and it doesn't have to be a gamified thing either, right? It's not how many points can I make and how quickly can I talk. It should also be accessible.
How many stars do I get for saying that?
Right?
Yeah, I think a good, clean debate is it's being a normal human and talking to someone. We're not all supposed to have the same views. That's just not how we're supposed to be. You're supposed to.
It would be so much more dull if we did.
Yeah, we have to have different views to come up with a good solution. And I think that's lost a lot right now, because now if I don't agree with you, then we're supposed to hate each other. Not supposed to talk to anyone that you talk to. You're not supposed to talk to anyone I talk to. We're supposed to cancel each other or whatever, or possibly get to violence like some people do, because they don't understand that you can just have a debate and then go have a Coke or a beer or a coffee right after.
There you go.
Got two questions that popped in while we were talking. One I think you've answered, but we'll let them get their shine here. Temple time. Why is civic education so critical for today's youth?
Yeah, and I think it goes back to just like what we've been talking about, that need to make sure that it's the classic quote of those that forget our history are doomed to repeat it, right? Because history is a big part of it, but it's also something that goes back to citizenship, what that word means, not just the rights you have as a citizen, which are important, but the responsibility that you have. My mom once had this big flag poster that had the American flag, and underneath it said, "America, love it or leave it." And she really believed those words. She was an immigrant to this country, and she knew what it took to be here. And she also knew how she fought to be here. And she thought anyone that ever said, if this happens, this election, I'm moving to Canada and stuff, she thought the government actually should make it a law that person has to go to Canada for at least 2 years. The government should even pay for them to get a bus ticket, to leave them buses. She didn't think they should be able to get flights over there, but they should take a bus up to Canada and not be allowed to come back for at least 2 years, and they have to go through a process to try and come back. Because so many other people want to be here. We are a place that we're not perfect. We can be better. And it's important to know how we can be better, that there's a process in place for our Constitution, our laws to continue to make this country great.
Definitely. I like that you said that we are not perfect. We're not a very old country, if you look at the concepts of that.
250 years coming up, brother. We're excited for it.
It's amazing. We are at 250. We've had our ups and downs so far, and we're learning from those ups and downs. We got to learn from our history, like you just said, and try not to repeat those same mistakes.
Yes.
And move forward, learn and move forward, and keep striving for success and stack victories. I think that's where we need to be going. And the last question we'll take from the audience is this is a pretty good name here, Dong Gong 5. What message do you have for other veterans looking to serve their communities post-uniform?
That is a great question. And I would challenge any veteran that is even having that question to start small and see how quickly that you can't stay small. It's almost a challenge for a veteran to do anything at a small level. It's like almost asking a veteran to shrink. They even hate the word. As soon as you tell them to do it, it's like, no, I can't do that, right? Like that's not me. So I challenge you to try and do it. Try small and see how quickly you need to go from there. And I mean, just taking an interest in one person can make all the difference. You know, you talked even in your intro, Rich, about the mental health struggles that we all have. And I'll tell you that I had a traumatic brain injury that caused me to have to be removed from military service, and I retired because of that. But when I was going through my recovery process, I went through some really dark times. I didn't even know my name when I first woke up. So it took a couple years of going through that. And at one point, when I'm doing somewhat better, but still not in a good place mentally, I was physically better, but not, there was a lot going on cognitively. I had helped out a mentor, really a supervisor, former supervisor of mine. I had helped him get a job that he really wanted, and it was his dream job at the time. He got it, and he was really happy with it. And he wanted to take me out to lunch on his first day to celebrate, and that's what we were doing. But he could still sense that something was off with me, and he was very blatant and blunt about it. And he said, you know, I owe a lot to you, and my family does too. And if you can't stay alive for yourself, then what I want you to know is don't rob the world of Gerald. Those are his words to me. Don't rob the world of Gerald, because with everything you've given me and your family, imagine what you can keep doing if you stayed alive. And I wish I could say that that was the turning point and I never had those thoughts again. But for me, it was more of a roller coaster than that. That really was a large turning point, and a significant one that stuck with me, though. And I think about if every veteran did that, took that interest in one other person, and I'm not saying it has to be another veteran. I'm saying it can go young, right? Figure out how you're talking to that next person that needs a mentor, that needs that first sergeant to tell them, hey, by the way, did you know that the United States Military Academy doesn't have an application fee? Imagine what happens then, right? It goes back to that ripples. Right. In 2020, there was the pandemic we all went through. The West Point graduation was on for everyone to see because of it. And I'm watching it on TV like everyone else, because that's the only thing to do in 2020 around that time. And as they throw their hats in the air after the president is commissioning everyone and stuff, my phone rings. And it's a cadet on the field. And they explained to me that 5 years ago, I had talked to them about something. I couldn't even remember the conversation. But 5 years ago, I had talked to them. It had changed their life, made them want to become an Army officer and go to West Point. And this was them fulfilling that. And they wanted me to be the first phone call they had. Wow. Those ripple effects. You don't know what that one conversation is going to be. So if you want to be a veteran or anyone that's listening to this and wants to help and serve in some type of way, try and start small and see how addicted you get to just wanting to help more and more people. Don't run yourself into the ground doing it, because that's the other challenge, because you can see how much of an impact you can have. So pace yourself.
Yeah, definitely. And that's the other thing that, like you said, veterans like to go big. They like to go as big as possible, and they have a hard time saying no.
Yes.
People say, can you help us with this organization? Can you help us with that organization? We have a disease that says say yes, and can't isn't in our vocabulary. So we have to keep saying yes. But like you just said, you wind up stretching yourself so thin that you forget about the main purpose is to help one to be one. Mm-hmm. And then once you get that one help, then maybe go to two. Don't just try to start off with 150. Stay small as long as you can, and then start scaling.
100%.
All right, Gerald, we've ran through 52 minutes pretty quickly here.
Wow.
It's good conversation. I can't complain about that. But as we start to close here, what's the best way for someone in the audience to get in contact with Gerald, to either have them on their show or maybe just pick your brain?
Absolutely. I'm on Facebook, I'm on Instagram, I'm on LinkedIn. Thankfully, I have a pretty unique name as Gerald Gangaram. I'm the only one out there right now. So feel free to Google me and you'll come across my website, or otherwise send me a message through Instagram or my website, and that'll be the easiest way. You can also find the Bill of Rights.org, the Bill of Rights Institute.org. We have our website up there too, and you can see our curriculum. It's there, like I said, it's free. There's no paywalls. You can go and you can search whatever you want with history or otherwise. If you're looking for something to to prove a point to someone else. We have everything right now through, I believe, at least the Obama administration in terms of as we're continuing to figure out what's history now, even in the current days. So please, by all means, I love talking to you, Rich, and any other viewers that may want to connect. I'm all for it.
Outstanding. I've been sharing your links throughout the show in the chat, and I have your website going across the bottom right now. So hopefully those who want to get in contact with you can, and those who want to win at Jeopardy, go to the Bill of Rights Institute.
Yes.
Get in there, get those Jeopardy questions in there, because otherwise you'll be sitting on a couch saying things like baloney or something when the answer comes up there. Alex, 1,000 thanks, whatever. And
Love it, Rich.
The last question we ask our guests before we let them go, let them have their night back, is what's 3 things the Misfit Nation can start doing tomorrow to be better humans?
To be better what?
Humans.
Oh, wow. To be better humans. I think remembering that you're already a success as a human. I think it's really simple to forget that you've already had success. I don't care if it was learning to tie your shoes, asking someone out on a date, doing good on a test, getting a job you wanted. You've had success. And there might be moments where it feels like you're a failure, but don't let that one day make you think your entire life is a failure. You're not always having to look up. If you look behind you, you'll see that you've walked a ton of steps. So I think that's where I would start definitely first. And I'd also like people to remember that, don't forget to forge forward. Yes, you can choose to melt, but a lot of the people listening to this, especially, we're all cut from the same cloth, and we have that leader warrior mentality and ethos. And we go into those fires, and even the mental ones we need to go to. And we're going to come out that much better for it if we recognize that this is another story to tell. Yeah, some of us are really sick of having so many stories to tell, and we'd rather someone else have them because we don't need any more for ourselves. But I think it's even more important to take stock of that and keep that in mind. And finally, keep reaching, right? Don't be afraid to draw your entire life out in pencil and then erase it along the way. It's something that'll continue to have you striving for what's next. And then at the same time, if you decide to change it all and chuck it out the window and make a new plan, that's okay too. You can reinvent yourself at any age, and that's a glorious thing. And I love our ability to do that.
Outstanding, Gerald. Those are 3 great ones. And Misfit Nation, take heed to them as you go into the rest of your night and to your weekend, of course. So most people do have work tomorrow. Some of you will probably not work tomorrow and find ways to do other things around your house and knock off that honey-do list or whatever you have to do to stay out of trouble at the house. But Gerald, this has been great hanging out with you tonight. Thanks for taking some of your time to hang out with the Misfit Nation.
Appreciate you, Rich. Thanks to all your listeners.
Outstanding. Have a good night, everybody.
Thanks for checking us out and being a part of the Misfit Nation show. Don't forget to visit our website at themisfitnation.com. That's themisfitnation.com. Check out all our past episodes and get some of the great Misfit Nation gear for you and your family. As always, be humble, stay hungry, and keep hustling because we are
Misfit Nation. Misfit Nation.